Welcome back, duelists. Today we are going to be asking the age-old question. After a ban list without any new products, what is the best deck? It's not always clear, as without a new archetype to work directly into, we always need to figure out, okay, how much was the previous best deck hit, and how does the ecosystem change as a result? Any specific tech cards like Dweller that can drastically reshape a format without its existence. Much to a lot of people's dismay, the deck that I think is the best is the deck that I won YCS Vegas with not too long ago. And that is Fiendsmith Yugioh, or Yugioh Fiendsmith, depending on who you ask, I guess. I know that's not what you guys want to hear, but I still think it is important to look at how to adapt the deck under new circumstances, because you can apply that sort of skill set to anything, as well as it should give us direction going into next formats. That being said, I have plenty of other thoughts on the new format, and come back in a couple days where we'll have a more in-depth discussion about the whole format, as I'm expecting it to kind of evolve in the upcoming weeks. But on the topic of Fiendsmith Yugioh, or Yugioh Fiendsmith, with the limits and hits the way they are, I like having another engine besides Yugioh for similar reasons to before. I think that helps you play around non-engine like Ultimate Slayer, and now in this format with cards like Cashier Unicorn Meltronus, meaning you're not just losing once your detonator is banished, because to me that seems like a concern. Also, it gives you consistency without playing the Tachyon cards, which truthfully I'm not in love with. They feel kind of neg to me, so I'm happy to play the Fiendsmith package. That being said, you still need to find new starters somewhere where before you already had a good amount. So where the Fiendsmith cards were the secondary package to Yugioh in the last version, and this deck, the one that I'm going to be showing you guys now, I have brought a Fiendsmith first deck with the secondary engine being Yugioh. Now, if you're curious to see the deck, you can do so in the description box below. There will be a deck list. I'm not going to go over deck profile right now. However, if you want an in-depth deck profile, kind of learning about my preliminary decisions and thoughts about building the deck, then you can check out Patreon, where I will be posting a more in-depth, like 20-minute long deck profile there. But with that in mind, that doesn't mean it's perfect. Part of what we're doing here today is not just showing off the deck, its changes, and how we maybe play differently, but also testing, seeing what of my theories or my ideas works and what doesn't work. Because very often I'll have an idea that either just isn't a legal play because I'm not perfect, I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh player who can't read, or it doesn't plan out the way that I'd imagine. And as I've played Yu-Gi-Oh more and I've gotten better, more and more my ideas and theories tend to work the way I envision them. But again, not perfect is the whole point I'm going to get across here. And this is a good ground to see if I'm on the right track. Now, I know this is typically a little more of a competitive video than I normally do. So if you want to see more content like this, where I'm really focusing in on mastering and reshaping to the very niches of the meta, then let me know. Please comment down below if you want to see more of this, or if you don't, then feel free to let me know what else you want to see, because I do want to give you guys a wide variety of content, and from super casual to super competitive, and the specific types of content that you want to see. If you let me know, it does help me further plan out the future of this channel. But with that said, let's get into locals. Okay, so I will have to apologize with the bad lighting in this video. I could not get it to look nice, and I felt with it between rounds, but unfortunately glare was a bit of a problem, and my tripod also broke, so it ends up looking kind of weird. It leans a little bit. Not ideal. I can't say this is where I wanted to be with the recording. I thought I had better equipment by now. I promise next locals video will look a little better. I'll arrive a little earlier. I'll have a new tripod, and it'll look cleaner. But for the time being, you can see the cards, and we're here for the commentary and the decision making, so we can dive straight into that. But also, before we get into any actual duels, just a reminder that this is a safe space, and if you have a misplay to point out, whether it be myself or my opponent, try to do so in a constructive fashion. It's important not to just call someone stupid, bad, or whatever. Instead, say, this was a mistake because I think you could do this better. Explain why. And that helps everyone grow, whether it be a random commenter who could learn something, myself, or even if my opponent is watching the video later. But okay, we get into match number 1, and I lose the roll. And I believe I just draw a hand of pretty much Fiendsmith control. It's a hand of like Call by the Grave, Talents, Ash, Impermanence, and Engraver, which is honestly pretty well balanced. Obviously, you lack Yugioh cards. However, in a lot of games with this deck, you will expect to play without Yugiohs, and you have to be okay with that. My opponent starts off with a Crystron continuous spell, and let me stop right here. I have very vague idea of what this deck does. I know from being told that Dweller hurts it, Lancey hurts it, or Dweller used to hurt it, Droll hurts it, and part of the reason why it's not a top tier deck is the vulnerability to a lot of cards. That being said, the specific effects and all the things I may know like a little bit of. I don't know how they'll interact with each other, and choke points is importantly something I'm not well adept with. My opponent also said they're new to the deck, so if things look wrong with Crystron, I will not be able to point it out, nor will I know if my opponent made a mistake, and I think they said they did. So if you have any Crystron experts in chat, feel free to point out misplays on my behalf and what I could have done to stop my opponent better, or on my opponent to combo better, because again, I'd like to learn, and not a good excuse to be ignorant. It's the reason why I'm gonna play well this match, but not a good reason. Never want that to be the reason. As you see, the Crystron spell here will let him search a Crystron card. I decided not to Ash this. I feel like I'd rather Ash a monster. You typically don't want to search Ash just search cards. At least that's my initial thought. And then its graveyard effect lets you banish to revive a card. So I figure probably not very good. I still don't know if that's true, but yeah. You get Tristaros, which I know is like their Kashtira type monster. The main thing is when I use a card effect, they summon from deck, and it pretty much just serves as punishment for me interacting with them. I have to be careful. I use that new blue dude, which I do not know the name of, which summons itself and then pops the spell and then sends from deck to grave 2 cards. I decided to let it go through because they still have access to the Synchron board, and I don't want to waste both Imperm and Ash. Of course, if I hand trap, then Tristaros will trigger, and then it's special from deck anyway, so I don't want to be there. They send one that searches a monster, and they send one that revives by discarding, and then pops a card they control. So they do have some stuff. And they sync away the Tristaros here, so it means now if I interact with this, it's pretty good. This adds one back from the grave, and then when it dies, floats. However, I don't know if there's really anything I do want to add, or I want to stop. I don't really care. I'm adding back a card, so I don't Imperm this. I do, however, Ash this Tristaros because its graveyard effect lets him pop a Synchro to special 2 from the deck, and I feel like that stops it from going super ham. I do not know if that's correct, but I feel like this was fine, and it also blocks him from using the Tristaros on field effect. Here he summons out that yellow dude, which summons itself and then pops the Synchro, which revives the Tristaros, and then that Smyger searches spell a trap. So you can get the trap here. That trap here is pretty much like the time pendulum graph or star pendulum graph from pendulums. It's just once per turn pop a card pretty much. So I'll be careful of it. I think it pops 2 if they control Synchro. Then they use the spell to revive a card, and they go into Cyber Dragon Infinity. Yeah, the glare there is pretty rough. I apologize. Cyber Dragon Infinity is going to be an Omni Negate I'll have to deal with. So I'm thinking the best way to deal with this, and thankfully Imperm plus Talons could be pretty solid. The Tristaros, though, will be another form of interaction. I debated holding Ash until my turn, because you can also Ash Tristaros, and then Ash Imperm Talons may have been like the game plan. I draw Droll for turn there, which is not great. Leading Graver, maybe I'm supposed to not do this, because I have Call by the Grave in my hand. I can Call by the Droll, but I can get negated by Infinity. And then my Imperm kind of sucks. So I maybe should have Impermed the Infinity before activating the Engraver. Thankfully, they decide not to Infinity the Call by the Grave. I'm not sure if they just thought I had nothing else. They didn't know what I was playing, I guess. And you can argue that Droll may have not been the most impactful card. But here, they get to resolve the Tristaros, which for me is not a huge deal. They go into the Dragster, so I guess in their mind that checks the tract, and then they banish Droll. Ironically, I drew Droll for turn, so it's kind of a shame now that I have to call by Droll. So then I start off the tract here, and if he negates, then I get to Imperm and go for a Talons. And I figure that this tract isn't super important. It's not going to be the card that wins me the game. If there's an Ash, I lose. I need Engine though, so I'm going to Imperm the Infinity. Doesn't matter if he negates or he doesn't negate. The Talons draw 2 is going to be how I win here. Now if I draw a Fiend card, it's not the end of the world because I have Engraver already engraved, so if he pops, it's not too bad. And I draw a Rizal card, so that's where I want to be, and why I still think the Rizal cards are so broken. If he has effect negation, oh well, but I mean, by this point, I don't think he has Ash. And yeah, Sword resolves. Obviously, didn't have Imperm. I got to grab X. And now X here isn't honestly the best. It doesn't really send anything meaningful, so I have to decide if I want to send the Aggregator to place or descend off of the X to attach a Detonator, or Twins, and then go through a bunch of XYZs, or send Exciton to revive Engraver. But keep in mind, if I revive Engraver, I can't make Requiem this turn, so it doesn't do that much. Like I said, putting a Light Fiend Engrave for next turn is also not a bad idea. I decided to put Aggregator Engrave just have as much follow-up as possible, because I decided that I'm not going to go for Duo Drive here. Duo Drive is going to be weak to his trap. So I grab Node, that way if he pops immediately here, I can extend past, then go Duo, and then he dies. But otherwise, I just make Detonator here. Truthfully, though, I hadn't special Sword yet, so maybe I was supposed to go for Sword instead, because it's better follow-up, and it accomplishes the same thing, where if he uses the trap before making Detonator, then I'm able to extend Duo and go for the kill shot. But yeah, here the Detonator checks the trap, so it's going to pin it down. It's not going to do anything, so I go end phase here, and he uses the trap. I'm just checking to make sure that he can use it in the end phase here, because if for whatever reason he can use it in the main phase only, and he does this in my main phase, and the main phase 2 node summon and kind of cooks. Okay, so I have to pass back here, and I'm kind of left with not much. Not sure if this was the best way of breaking the field, but it gives me some follow-up still. Oh, you know what? You know why I didn't send Aggregator? I do remember this. My other card my talents drew was the second Engraver, so I didn't need to send Exciton. Aggregator was for sure the better play there. The only other option that made any sort of sense was Twins, and then go for the Duo, let it die, and then the node make what's it called? Detonator. I felt like conserving my resources was better. He normals Tristaros here, and he has a Synchro play setup. Makes Vermilion here, but the levels are wrong, because the Dragster becomes level 5 as it has negated the Tract. He makes the Crystron Synchron instead, adds back the Smyger, which will give him access to the continuous spell again. And I want to hold resources as long as possible. It's the biggest thing with Detonator, and any of these disruptions there that is powerful. You want to just be patient, like blasting them all at once. Once you use them all, gives your opponent free reign to go uninterrupted. If I can keep him at a smaller field, but let him play still a little bit to end on something, I'm fine with that, because my follow-up should be very good as well. I still have Node, I still have Engraver, I have Engraver, Engrave. The Droll in the hand doesn't do anything, but actually normal summoning a Droll is not the worst, because it lets me commit into sequence plays easier, or into SP. So, not completely meaningless. Here I'm just double checking exactly what I want to pop. Now, if I recall exactly, the one in his grave that just says pop a card to revive is like Shyama, or like an Unchained card, where if you pop the card that he wants to pop, it won't summon itself, then it can't dump 2. So I want to hold one of the pops for that, because I think it eats up cards pretty easily. And then I'm going to hold as long as I can. Important to note that even if he deals with Detonator by negating it or whatever, then Aggregator can negate. What I didn't realize here immediately was that the Synchro lowers the attack of my Detonator by 500. So the second that he eats off the next material, he can, what's it called, just attack over the last material. This does force a grind game for me, which is fine, but I don't really know the end board or the end pieces of deck too much. If I recall, they can banish my grave. If they can, then I'm not really happy with a grind game against them as a Fiendsmith player. Now you notice here, I'm not stopping any of his ability to search, because I feel like all the searching is kind of irrelevant. He gets a bunch of cards that don't do that much. The extenders are kind of limited here, so if I just wait, then I'm chilling. Like, I'm not worried with the continuous spell's effect to search, because he already has enough searches anyways. But here I have Detonators to pop the spell here now. He can revive here, but yeah, no, this way it keeps him off a little more. And the card on his monster zone is Citri, I believe. So he's going to have a tuner access already. He has level 7 up. So if he makes like the Vermilion or the Navy Dragon mech now, he can deal with it. He decides to attack, gets rid of the Aggregator as material. I decide to negate the Synchro. I do not know if that does anything, but I may as well. I mean, if there's a reason not to, then I'm stupid, but yeah. And then heading into the main phase 2, he has to decide what he wants to do, and I think he just ends up going for the Tristaros to have another piece of disruption. At this point, it's kind of clear that he's burning through a lot of his main deck resources, so the Tristaros is not too much of a concern. It only summons from the deck. And while I still like to deal with it, if the Tristaros is all he has, I'm kind of chilling. Both those guys are weak, so if I can just attack over them first, it's going to be pretty easy. So I think for second here, what my best play is, I actually do Ice Rise over turn, I'm pretty sure. So now I have Ice, Node, and Engraver to push with, which is a lot. I decide that I can force Battle Phase to clear out the Citri, which is his disruption. If he uses Citri, then I attack Tristaros, and there should be all known disruption gone. And given the way the last turn went, I don't think there's any disruption in his hand unless he drew it for turn. At that point, I should have a lot of disruption to push through and clear the rest of the field, sending things with Engraver, SP, Desiree, to the point that there should be no good recourse for my opponent. Yeah, my opponent uses the Citri here, revives, and gets the Synchro, and they summon Samurai Destroyer. I misread this card. For some reason, I thought it only triggers this revive effect when it gets destroyed. I thought that for some reason, if I send it with Engraver, it will not trigger. But yeah. Anyways, as I said, I get to redeclare attack with Chistaros, and main phase 2 I start with Engraver. And I get to kind of just jam. So setting up my infinite flow resources is nice. That way if I get hand trapped into Oblivion, Nibiru, or whatever, then I'll have the Fiends in the Grind game to compete against his grind game, and that should win me the game. Yeah, so I'm just going to shuffle through the package here. And then also I want to deal with these cards without popping them. So I can send with Engraver and such. Now, if I do that, though, it becomes harder to make Caesar, play on Nibiru, but I don't think I need that. So, yeah, instead I go for other stuff. I go for the Desi Ray instead. What the Desi Ray allows me to do is I can link it off now, and then I can attach it to Detonator. That way, I can detach it off Detonator to pop and send. And then afterwards, I'll go Lacrima, target Egmonde. Egmonde will come back, and then Egmonde will revive the Desi Ray. So I'll still have access to Desi Ray in a very layered sequence. And it just means I have to go Detonator back on field. And that's not going to be hard. I can do so either with Twins or with Cross. Both should be relatively open to me. But yeah, I do make a mistake here because I go Egmonde to Desi Ray to send, and he just gets to revive. Just stupid of me. It should not have worked out that way. Just gave him a free card for nothing. Probably should have just left it there and then dealt it the next turn and waited till I have a Cross on field. Here's back Infinity, with which no materials cannot detach or cannot negate. It's a suck up, which means I'd have to deal with it one more time. And that's not necessarily hard. Yeah, I go Ice next, just keep special summoning. And I can just SP this, and I just need the what's it called on the grave, the Egmonde, and then once the duo resolves, I'm also just going to need the Detonator and Grave to shuffle it back into the deck. And yeah, I have like enough extended here. This is not going to be a problem. Probably should have made SP first here to check for Nibiru. That way, if I get Nibiru, I can tag out and have a little bit extra. And then I still have the node afterwards. Yeah, this is not a problem. You see, I'm still not 4-locked, so I get the Cross out, and then I get to link off for SP. Actually, I'm like, wait, there's no Detonator Grave yet, so I just go into the SP, and then I get to banish the Infinity, so it's not going to be a problem, as well as SP acts as another form of interruption. Banish. I have the Cross Negate up now. I get to put it back. I think I had no fires left in my deck, so I put back the sword for next turn. Then I think I have X in hand I'm saving for next turn. No Book of Eclipse there, which is cool. Just don't need it. And then I get rid of Droll because, yeah, I mean, let's be real. My opponent is not playing into Droll. He has searched a billion cards and they don't do anything. So nothing else should matter. I can whip the Desi Ray there, and yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So now I have the SP, I have the Eclipse, I have the Crossing for Duo, I have the Desi Ray with the Detonator under it, and then I have the Egmonde to revive the Desi Ray after I detach it. Like, thousands of disruptions there. And you can see the Ryziel Fiendsmith deck is still incredibly powerful. Cannot be understated. As for side decking here, I don't know what to side deck too much, so I just throw in Lancias and call it a day. Going into the next game, my opponent starts off with the golden dude that summons itself and then pops to special from the deck, and I hit him with a Fuwalos. At this point, I had Lancia in hand as well, but I figure Fuwalos is better used now. Keep him into a half field, and then if I'm able to shut off his board, then the Lancia will be good. I have X-Rise on the hand, which is nice. I can play a Ryziel game. Do Book of Eclipse off this, which will help me deal half fields. Imperm the ability to dump 2. I'm not sure this is necessary, but I don't want him to search now. I want him to commit very little into searches. That way, next turn, the Lancia cuts him off, and he won't be able to do too much. Let's continue a spell, and then grabs Tristaros, and I think he just tries to end on the Tristaros field. Passes turn over to me, and I start off with Engraver once again. So I have Engraver X, which should be pretty good for combos. Opponent changed to Staros here. Probably going for the same play with, what's it called? Dragster. I'm thinking if I want to Eclipse here. I decide to not let that happen, and my opponent then synchros for the Dragster. I can Eclipse deal with this, but in order to play around Droll, which I know my opponent plays, I get Sanct instead. I just want to be able to play, and if I get Droll, then I have the X in the hand and track, I just lose. So here the Sanct is really good. And now if you hadn't seen the deck list already, yes, I play Sanct. The reason is with more Faintman cards in the deck, I just wanted to not draw redundant cards, while also still playing more starters, and Sanct does that. It's just the one of, but it was pretty good for me today, as well as some niche combos that come up where you can summon 2 Lacrimas, level 4 Lacrimas, to make Duo drive. And you'll see me do that later on in the tournament, which is pretty cool. But yes, so the Sanct here is nice because I get Drolled, and I can Eclipse to force the Dragster, and then still keep playing. Obviously, if I grabbed the track and got Drolled, I would have passed. I don't think I have any plays. So here I'm able to force the grind game so Lancia thrives, and then have the Fiendsmith cards kind of get into the grind game. My opponent decides to negate with Drags to here, which makes sense, and then I activate the Sanct. The unfortunate part here is locks me into attacking with Fiends, which can be a bit of a nuisance, especially when you're trying to clean up a field, which is still definitely the correct choice here. I use Wrecking Special from the deck, and I decided to go for Lacrima, I think, just to continue the idea of a grind game. As well as if I get stopped at any point, I can commit into rank 4s with X'd. Here I'm just going over the continuous spell has another effect to protect his Bistroms from battle. Be a little careful of that. The Lacrima effect, and then I dump another Engraver. That way if I get Bistrolled, I have one more Grave still, and I continue a grind for next turn. You can't use Paradise anyways under Lancia, so I wasn't playing around it. Or so I didn't want to send a Paradise anyways. I get Bistrolled on Graver, so that's what I was playing around. It's Magnamut, which fortunately with no dragons in his graveyard isn't going to do anything. From here though, I'm in a bit of a difficult position. I do have to burn this X in order to exit on the field and enter the grind game that I'm desperately looking for. It means that I'm not going to be playing Rizal this game. I'm going to be playing Fiendsmith, which this deck will do a lot, and that's fine. And I'm debating if I want a normal or special the Exiton here, or the X. It doesn't make too much difference. And if there's anything good I want to send. Obviously, in some cases, you'd send Exiton to have the Light Fiend engrave, but I don't need that when I'm making the X. I don't want to do that when I'm making the Exiton itself. So I decided to just not normal summon it. Exiton detaching Lacrima, so I have the ability to do that in the end phase, and I pass. And then in the draw phase, I will answer him, so keep him on his top deck plus the one card in his hand. The Sulfador can, or the, I don't know the names, the Golden Dude can discard to special summon itself still and summon from deck, but it is going to do less than, before. Like, if he special summons Tristaros, I can attack him next turn. He has to have something else besides it. And if he gets to do the dumps too, that doesn't do anything. Smyger lets him banish down a monster, so that doesn't do anything either. Yeah, so I'm not too concerned. Here's the blue dude to come back and pop it. So more fold for next turn for him, but for now it's doing nothing. And I'm trying to not let it get to a next turn. Dumps 2 more to grave, or up to 2. Puts the another blue dude in grave that searches a monster this time. Yeah, so the Lancia here is keeping him a bit stun locked. Last card in hand at this point should be a Droll and Lockbird. I drew it as my 6th card, I believe, and in this duel as well, which is pretty funny. And he sets here and passes. In the end phase, I decide to use the Requiem to bring back the or Lacrima to bring back Requiem, and then I get to draw and get to do some cool plays. So now I get to sack this off, get access to Lacrima once again. I go Engraver. Why do I go Engraver? Oh, to pop what he has first. Yeah. Okay. Instead of draw for turn, I don't remember what the play here was. I guess the Fiendsmith cards will just carry this game, though. I don't really have to worry about anything else once I get going. I could have done a cool play where I make Duo Drive with 2 Lacrimas, but I guess I'm just going for the Fiendsmith cards here. Because I haven't used Summoned Requiem this turn. It's important to remember you can use the effect multiple times per turn. You can only summon 1 per turn. If you summon one in the end phase, you can use its effect, and then summon another one, then use it again. Here I go like Monday, shuffle back the back row, or shuffle back, pop the back row. Use Droplet, and I'm free to play. Oh, I drew Lacrima, that's why. So I drew level 4. So now I get to dump level 4 from deck to grave. And then make Duo Drive, and then go for the kill shot. With 0 cards left, I should be good. And I just didn't do it, because why? Oh, maybe I side out a Lacrima going second. Okay, I think that's actually what I did. This is game, actually. No. 18-18. It's just game. I don't know why I was even saying anything else. It was game. But you could also do stuff with multiple Lacrimas there. Yeah, that is a nice 2-0 for Fiendsmith Rizal. Let me know again if there's other choke points to this deck I need to know about. But I feel like I played mostly pretty well and adapted to what I knew in terms of their weaknesses. Let's press forward. All right, so these first 2 games, I will say, are quite long and grindy. This round is going to be quite rough as well. We pretty much only played 1 game, which maybe is spoilers, but I think it's also interesting. That being said, mistakes were made on both of our ends. For example, at some point, I just make an incredible, not mistake, just straight up blunder, because I wasn't paying attention. And it is interesting to see that, yes, I am human. I am capable of making mistakes that are very stupid. That being said, we start off and I win the roll. I remember looking at my hand, and my hand is... What was my hand? It was Fuwalos, Imperm, Book of Eclipse, Lacrima, Lurie. Which, yeah, that's just a pure Fiendsmith hand, and I did talk about it. This could be happening a lot. How do we deal with it? With the Fuwalos in hand, you can do a sort of classic play that a lot of Fiendsmith players may do, and that is you summon Requiem, and you pass. And that way, during your opponent's turn, you contribute Requiem and chain the Fugalas. Now, I don't know what my opponent's playing here. In local, sometimes you do, but I didn't at this point. So I decided to do that play. And it means the Impermanent Eclipse are going to be kind of dead, but I can save them for a backswing, as well as, depending on the way that it's timed, I can use Impermanent and Fu in the same chain. So I send Paradise to grave, that way I have some disruption to back with a Fugalas, make it so they can't just kill me. Of course, that's what I'm scared about if I Fu with them when they have a battle phase. Make the Requiem and pass it over. Not a brilliant start, but you know, you gotta win these games. That is part of Yu-Gi-Oh! Winning when your hands aren't ideal. Opponent starts with Mark here, and it's like, shit. I pretty much just passed turn 1 to a deck that wants to go first. So here I go, chain Requiem, chain Fugalas, then Imperm the Mark, because Man of the Mark is like one of the most important cards to check out and to stop. And then I get to summon another Lacrima from deck, and the shows I have 2 Lacrimas, but I put some Graver in grave. I think it's overall fine, just fills the grave a little more. And then is Terraforming to add from deck to hand Mausoleum. Oh, Mausoleum. The Treasure of the Kings, which is such a fantastic card. I'm not happy to see that, but I can keep him off of any aggressive combos if I pop the Circuit. He adds the old-ish Apophis, not the old one, which should signal me that he has the new one in his hand. And he grabs Circuit off of the field spell here. And if I want to keep him from using these traps immediately, I do have to pop the Circuit, which has me using Paradise rather early, which maybe isn't a great idea. I do like holding it typically, but I decide that it's worth it because if it's not a Fiendsmith deck, then he passes on this. Man can't kill Lacrima, and I have enough presence on fields to win. I can just end phase Lacrima and Grave Revive Requiem and kind of snowball. And versus trap decks like this, especially the ones that lack removal, because this deck does lack removal, then the presence of bodies is something they struggle with. And preserving my presence of bodies is key. Still, he does have Fiendsmith cards. That's not the end of the world, though. Remember, he still is under Fua, so if he extends past this, it'll be hard. I decided to do Link 2 off into Silhouette Rabbit, so I get 1 draw. And obviously, it still denies him the Lacrima and all that. I drew Valor off of the, what's it called? The Fugalas, which I'm not sure if I even want to draw the Valor there, but I guess hitting Silhouette Rabbit still isn't bad. He brings back the Engraver, and now he can clear my field. Now, Valoring the Rabbit means he can kill things by battle, but because he had the Engraver engrave, it didn't actually mean anything to keep it up there. Otherwise, it would have been nice to keep my Lacrima. Still the end phase, I revive my Requiem, and I press forward with my Fiendsmith control deck. Start off the turn with Requiem Special Summon from deck. And I'm going to be playing the good old Fiendsmith game now. I special summon another Lacrima, just keep filling with grave, get it back, put the Engraver in grave. Did I not send off this? No, I do, I just not shuffled for no reason. Okay. Put the Engraver in grave. And this should look fairly normal. I'm going to try and clean up the field as well. Kill the Silhouette Rabbit is nice, or kill the Engraver. I have no idea what the camera's doing at this point. I have to apologize. It's like having a spasm. But yes, my opponent uses the new Apophis trap, pops my Requiem. So be a bit careful of that. And then obviously I know that there are negates coming, so I need to find ways to force them. And one of the best ways to force it, which I learned from Sam, is to attack over the traps. So if I attack over this trap, then it means that he'll have to flip up 2 more in order to end on a negate. But here I kind of decide to change my mind. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Given the way that he's played, he probably actually has multiple traps face down, right? He has the Apophis, the old one, and the new-ish, like, old one. So what if I go for, instead, Caesar, just to stop him from summoning? That way I can play more uninterrupted with the cards in my hand. And I believe, I do this because I do Ice Rise over turn, so it gives me the ability to keep playing. He activates the Apophis trap here, and I just negate this. I'm not sure he was hoping that I'd make a mistake and get baited, but yeah, not a problem for me. A special Sword rises off from the deck, and now I'm feeling pretty good until I get hit with a Purge. And yeah, I didn't expect that to happen, and I guess that's why he used the trap and made the Purge live. It makes sense. And the Sword just goes to the grave, and now it's like, shit, well, I'm stuck. And it can kind of clean up the field, but it's not great. I only have 1 Caesar negate, and there's a Temple of the Kings there. And without the Desiree or the Paradise in my graveyard, I'm going to be kind of vulnerable for disruption. I have Eclipse and Droll, and I have to hope that that's good enough with the 1 Caesar. Thankfully, Eclipse with Droll is a good combination in the sense that you can't, not going to be drawing cards off of the Eclipse, so tempo-wise, not going to be a huge deal. Opponent starts off, I think, with using the temple to search. And they add Anubis here, which is the correct add. And you're going to see me not draw here. Remember, I said I had draw. Didn't draw there either. I was not paying attention. No good excuse. I'm an idiot. He summons the Anubis here, and I'm like, what's my hand again? I'm like, oh, crap. I have draw. So, obviously, that feels bad. He activates the Apophis Trap, and I decide to Caesar Negate, thinking that if he goes into Link Spider, I don't want him getting access to Fiendsmith cards again, or even a Light Fiend in the grave. Because remember, his Engraver right now is dead. He only had the Lori Engrave, and he shuffled it back on turn 1. Never made Requiem to play around Fuelos. So, I want to keep him off of Light Fiends. That does trigger the Anubis to pop. Honestly, I didn't even know that. I thought it had to be a monster card. So, oops. And I Eclipse there. I'm not really having a risk knowing that I can draw him later, stop the draw from happening. I know that if he goes Man of the Mark, add another Treasure of the Kings, I can draw there. And Treasure of the Kings, while I can still search on activation, he can also search a monster again, and I at least shut off that. So I draw here, and that keeps him a little bit more at bay. And now hopefully it's a little better. Still, that is a monster for him that he can link off into the moon and kind of play. Now, this really has no reason to be in the position that it does. I should have stopped this mark from even getting to his hand. Should be an Anubis stuck in his hand, which you could have summoned, but would have been a lot easier to deal with. He presses forward, and then he can go into the Fiendsmith stuff with the 2 monsters he has on his field. Now here I make a mistake. I have to remember that he used Purge from his hand. And this is something that I end up making a mistake about, and then he makes a mistake about as well. I keep thinking if he makes Caesar, I kind of just lose. And I'd rather force him to make Desiree, and then yeah, just kind of rather do that. But he makes Lacrima here and sends Paradise, and then summons out Engraver, and then equips Requiem, makes Necroquip, and the Caesar becomes obvious. I use my Lacrima Engrave to put the bodies on field. That way, it's just harder for him to clear. But the problem with this is, he purged. He can't use water effects. So the Caesar isn't even live. I should have just held this. There was no reason to do this. It made it more vulnerable for no reason. Thankfully, he makes Caesar anyways before attacking, which I think is a clear mistake. On my opponent's behalf, they definitely should have tried clearing up more. Oh, no, they linked it off. No, they actually made the better play. They were about to go Caesar and then didn't. Caesar would have been catastrophic. But yeah, the sequence is the better play there. It is a bit weird, though, because it does kind of cut off a bit of their Fiend access. They shouldn't have sent Paradise if they were doing this. They should have sent something else. Yeah, they have to go Desiree. I definitely shouldn't have Lacrima there, though, because if for whatever reason they tried stopping Lacrima by making Caesar, it wouldn't have worked. And they would have been in a very bad spot. So they get to go Desiree and then link off Rec Monday, which will clear a monster. I think he makes a mistake here and uses the Monday immediately instead of attacking with it and then in the battle phase using the effect of the Monday to bring Desiree. So this way, it leaves me with one more body than in reality I should have. I should have 0. Now I'm going to have 1. And then I'm going to have to play through this Desiree. So he attacks the Ice Risal and then passes here with the Engraver on field. Now I can use this Engraver to kind of force things out immediately. Anubis flips up and then I draw. And I don't remember what I draw, truthfully. He starts off the turn with the Apophis Trap that he searched to set the other Apophis Trap. So he has this negate up. Because he does this now, I can use the Engraver to target that Apophis Trap. And then force a negate, whether it be the trap or it be the Desiree. So I target the Apophis. There's one less continuous trap there. And it doesn't destroy either, so it shouldn't trigger the Anubis there that pops my card. And he decides to activate his Apophis Trap to negate. He negates the Engraver and not the Requiem here, which is a mistake, because now my Engraver can actually attack over his Apophis monster in defense position, which is 2,000 defense. And it means that if I can get 2 monsters big enough to attack over his Apophis monsters, then I can play. I think one of the best course of action is here. Oh, I do Eclipse for turn, which is kind of weird into the negates. It eats a negate, but that's all it does. I think I use Eclipse here, hoping he'll Desiree and not use the trap. And he holds the trap for it later, because what that means is I get to attack over the traps and I'll have to deal with the new Apophis face down. So he negates the Desiree. Okay, now I can play through the last disruption. I can Engraver and clear the field. I Engraver, shuffle back the Requiem, that way I can make it again later. And then I get to turn to attack mode and attack over both the trap cards that he has there. And here I just double check the Anubis cannot trigger when I kill things by battle. It cannot, so I get to clear both his traps. And this is not going to be a big concern for me. And then in main phase 2, I get to make sequence and clean up. Now, the biggest thing here is treasures is going to be a constant flow of resource for them. I'd like to deal with that, as well as I'd like to deal with this Desiree. The Desiree is going to give them Fiend access. Right now, they don't have any. They have a Paradise Engrave, which they can use to send Engraver, and they should. But until they do that, it is pretty good. As well as if I can SP banish the Desiree, there's no sequence attached to it, then he's not going to have a way of getting it back. Lacrima, the fusion monster, is banned. So, yeah. The idea is to go Desiree, and then Desiree will banish Desiree into SP, and then banish the temple and send the... banish the Desiree and send the temple. And hopefully that deals with enough. First, I make Requiem again, just, again, filling my graveyard with Fiends, making sure I have enough. Also deck things, so I don't really want to draw all these for turn. Drawing them is not the worst, specifically Lacrima, I guess, because it's level 4, but yeah. SP and the Desiree to clear everything. Go back sequence. No Mundane Grave, so I can't do any shenanigans to bring back Desiree, but I chill there, and that's the turn. They still have a fair bit to go about. They turn their Anubis to attack position and go to the battle phase and kill the SP. And they continue with Tract. Now, Tract was a card I actually had last turn, and the Droll ended up helping me a lot that it wasn't there. I know that at the time. I saw that now watching the replay. Still, now they're going to have Fiendsmith access again, which does suck for me. Because part of the edge I had here was that I had Fiendsmith cards and they didn't. Now they have it again. Now, my other upside, though, now, and that still exists, is they don't have Desiree and I do. So I have to try to start cycling Desiree, because if I get to that point, then I can pull ahead. Here they go Lacrimus and Engraver. And then they think about how to go about this next. But they don't actually have that much they can do in truth. If they go for SP, it doesn't actually work because they purged. That's huge, right? Because in this position, if they hadn't purged, their course of action should be similar to what mine was last turn. That is, banish my Desiree, so it won't be a problem in the future. And my opponent tries to do that, which I think was the correct play if it was, possible. So they make Moon here just to burn it and put a Light Fiend Engrave, and then they go into SP. And then it puts us into the same grind game, where they both have the exact same resources available to us, except he has Anubis. And he has the tempo, he has initiative. And in those cases, I lose. But here I banished the Desiree. I knew this couldn't be banished too, and I immediately am like, wait, that's not how that works. Because when I planned out this play, I knew that, and then for some reason I forgot about it again. I can't really explain why I wasn't completely attentive this match. I catch it before the end of the turn, though. And we go back a little bit. And then I go Lacrima in the end phase. I'm like, wait, why is Desiree gone? I'm like, oh, he banished it. He can't. So here I pointed out, we go back a bit. He decides to still bring back the Anubis and keep all the things the same. Obviously, it's a local, so I always give the opponents in this position, like, okay, if you didn't realize this is a mistake, you're welcome to go back. It's not a big issue, but yeah. I resolve Lacrima anyways, and then in the end phase, and I'm good to go. I draw for turn. I don't remember exactly what I draw, but I get to start playing now. I start off with Engraver, shuffle back, and then remember this SP can't be used, so I don't have to worry about him managing my stuff. Grab Engraver again. Equip, get to pop his cards, and then link for sequence, and kind of re-establish the whole gameplay loop I had here. I make the Desiree, and then I get to clean up the field. I go like Monday here, I'm pretty sure, because I must have drawn level 4 for turn. I might have drawn Lacrima. So I can make Duo drive here. So I pop the SP. And at this point, my opponent uses Lacrima to revive Requiem, and then uses the Requiem to get Lacrima. Yeah, so what this does, when I play here, the Monday Desiree plays, it cleans up the field a little bit, then lets me Monday back Lacrima, so that I can normal level 4 and make the Monday into then I go Requiem and then special summon. Yeah, Lacrima from the deck. Then I make Duo drive and play with Rizals, assuming my opponent has no disruption. And I know that the face down there is just a shitty Apophis, so it should be good. Yeah, I do Lacrima for turn, which is funny. I make Duo here, I attach the Rise that he's hit before, and I get purged. I should have attacked the Lacrima first, but I still feel pretty confident in this position that he's playing without a Desiree. I'm not. I have Monday in my grave, and I'm chilling. So I pass here. Now he has to deal with Monday with not much going on. He also is running out of traps for Anubis, so eventually he will be burnt out of resources. I believe this is like some of his last traps in the grave. He's back to the Anubis, and I have to make sure I don't die. So if I go the Desiree in the draw phase in the main phase, I remember that he can just go Engraver pop, and while yes I can kill something, I am kind of low on life points here because I got attacked last few turns. Instead, I want to use my Desiree in the battle phase. So I'm going to 5400 attack monster, force him to go main phase 2, Then if he kills it, I pop something, and then I keep playing the next turn. And I get to keep Lacra doing that. I keep doing that Lacrima, and he has no way to force things out. We can't SP, can't Chaos Angel because they're darks. And eventually I make up for it. I draw out of it, I win. And I have high quality cards in theory from that perspective. Composition. Uses the Apophis Trap to summon, and yes, doesn't really concern me. And then he gets to go to main phase 2, and yeah. My opponent has access to Typhon here, but again, thanks to Purge, I don't have to worry about it. So I'm really just kind of chilling. Yeah, so my opponent does go for Typhon over the Anubis to prevent the Desiree from using its effect. And then passes his turn with a Droll in his hand, and I am good to go. Now I get to continue the Engraver kind of gameplay loop, and again, it is a long, slow grind, but we will get there. And this was a long-ass game. I'm down on life points, so I have to make sure that I can clean this up fast enough to win before time is called. Engraver does get to clean up some bodies here. I don't have a great way of dealing with all this. With the Desiree already on the field, though, one thing I do want to do is try get access to, what's it called? Sequence on field? Because with Sequence on field, I can attach it to Desiree. Now it can be targeted. Now Engraver no longer deals with it. I don't have a giant piercing card, and that's kind of what I'm looking for here. Here I just attack over 2 bodies with Engraver and Desiree. Honestly, I should have just made Sequence main phase 1. I would have given 1200 more attack to Desiree. More damage, actually more important. And all the Engraver does by killing the Lacrima, it is nothing, because it just revives the Requiem in the end phase, and yeah, it accomplishes just 0. So it wasn't meaningful. That being said, my opponent is not doing any of these cards either. They don't have as many Fiends with cards as I do. They don't have the full potential. Yeah, I continue to deck then, throw the cards in grave, send track to grave, I just don't draw it. I drew Fuelos, which if I played multiple Duo Drives would have been usable, but unfortunately I don't. So yeah, have to pass there. Normal 2 duos is something I'm considering though in the future, because there were a couple times this tournament where it was an appealing choice. And even with if you lose access Detonator because of Unicorn or Tronus, duo getting cross and that sort of just bunch of resources is still very good. So yeah. Opponent summons the Engraver from grave, and I have to remind them that Sequence says they can't target Desiree, and they're kind of out of options now. Surely but slowly they've been checkmated. They just have nothing that does anything. They can't use darks. They can't target. They can't attack. And none of traps in grave for Anubis either. I just double checked that, yep, only 2 in there. They need a 3rd one. So their options are completely limited. And the Anubis truthfully doesn't do anything either, because, yeah, they activate the Temple of Kings. And probably I should just not let this go, or I should let this go through, because I don't think it does anything actually meaningful. I decided to negate it because I wasn't sure if it could spiral into something else. Specifically, if they can make the Apophis Fusion monster and start popping my back row, and then hit the Sequence, then the Desiree, that'd be kind of concerning for me. Because they already have the 1 Apophis Trap up, right? If they get 1 Apophis Trap and search Temple of the Kings, yeah, I stand by my choice, actually. I should negate that spell there. It's a little bit risky, though, that if they had both Field Spell plus Talents for the coach of those 2 turns, then I'm kind of cooked. But it wouldn't make sense from a logical perspective that they had either Talents or Thing in the last room, because they probably would have used it. And after 40 minutes, game 1 is in the books. We are victorious. We grinded it out. It leaves me in a fantastic spot from a time perspective, because they make me start. I just play my game, and they have to try to deal damage through a field, which is hard for them. And if they go first, unless they play burn cards, which I doubt Odeon does, they have to make their board, stop my assault, make sure not to take damage in the process, which makes their disruption less effective, and then deal damage to me through any disruption that I've established. And if they're unable to do that and the game ends in a draw, I win the match because I'm up 1-0. That being said, it's not an excuse to slow play. I don't want to ever let that be an excuse. You can see I sided quickly as well. And for what it's worth, this game ends up going in a way that I think I'm going to win anyways. Opponent starts off with Prosperity, easy Ash. It makes a lot of sense. I don't have to roll. Almost always Ashing Prosperity was the first card. Opponent starts out with Falls with the Tract. And this is fine for me. I'm pretty sure I had a Bishlam in the hand as well, so I wasn't too worried about the paints with cards. Adding Lacrima, discarding Lurie is a little concerning, because it means the Bishlam is going to be a little worse, although still not that bad. Normal's Lacrima, sends from deck to grave. I think my opponent did say here that they made a mistake banishing the wrong cards with Prosperity because they're rushing because of time, which understandable. And this game ends up being a mess for them, which is a bit rough. They make Silo Hat Rabbit here, and I decide that I don't know what's happening. I'm just going to imperm this, or Veil this, and chill. I'm not sure why this Requiem doesn't get used here immediately. Maybe they just decided out some amount of Engravers. Since SP sets Doom Pass, in the end phase I get to Ball Drake banish the Requiem. Lacrima can't revive it. I can attack over the SP immediately. And yeah, it's just not a problem. Activates Earth Statue, and then attempt to go battle phase. They try Apophis, I have to tell them it's main phase only. So we go back to the main phase. They use it, they get to pop. Now all they only interrupt is SP. They have no cards in hand. Activate track, they're just dead. Now at this point, time is called before I get to go battle phase here. But again, I'm up game 1, and it's equal life points game 2, so I do win the match. But yeah, as I said, from this position, it should be an incredibly easy victory for me. So we are 2-0 with Fiendsmith Ryziel. All right, I win the roll and open up a hand of Lacrima, Lurie, Talents, Druid Worm, and Paradise. Not a terrible hand, but not great. Obviously, when you're relying on a Fiendsmith grind game, having the hand with Paradise is a little awkward. And it's not always that easy or safe to get into a Desiree, especially with minimal extenders. Still, I decide to normal Lacrima. Now, I maybe should have summoned Lurie instead, because if I get Fua lost, it's pretty easy to go for Lacrima from the hand, deny the draws off Fua, and then I'm chilling. And it wasn't like I was down bad and needing this Lacrima to resolve. It's not sending Paradise, and I have multiple Requiem, so if I get stopped on Requiem, I can normal summon Lacrima next turn, I'm fine. And then I get hit with double Fua, and I get punished. So I think there is a real world I'm supposed to normal Lurie instead. I have another Lacrima deck as well, so I would have really accomplished the same thing. I never reason to do this unless I really needed to go Desiree, which I probably shouldn't have. Now here it's rough because to give him multiple draws blows. I can make Caesar for 2 more draws, but it sucks. So if I draw cards off Talents, it's probably not good either. So I look at his hand, it's Memento, and there's 2 Bone Parties, 2 Goblins, and Combined Creation. So he's a brick, and then 2 duplicates. Which in one way is good because it means his hand is kind of fake. It's not that many different cards. At the same time, it means Talent does literally nothing. It gives me info. However, knowing my hand, I can't beat the cards in his hand. I have no disruption. It's just Druid Worm. And Druid Worm is not good enough against this deck. You want to use it against Gaddock typically, but they need to have a monster in field. So if their first action is normal Goblin, it doesn't work. So I decide, okay, go for Caesar. His hand can't beat Caesar as is right now. The 3 draws from that I don't know if I make Caesar. Is 2 for the Caesar summon and then 1 for turn. Hopefully that is enough to keep him completely at bay. We see Future another Fu loss, which is pretty funny. Normal summons the Goblin, sends 2 from Neck to Grave, sends Gaddock and Sleepy, which may indicate that Memento Fusion is already in his hand. Now, given that that's the case, I'm going to try keep an eye out to stop Memento Fusion. Against Mementos, the cards you typically want to stop with the fusions are just ridiculous. Those are the cards that bring the deck over the edge to be a competitive deck right now. If you can deny that, that's awesome. So stopping Gaddock means he can't have actually to get to a fusion, and then he activates Memento Fusion, which is great because that's a card I didn't know in his hand. It gives me information, as well as it's a card I wanted to stop. And then it gets the Bone Party, which also plays into my plan. And this is why I set Paradise. They're incentivized to summon Darkblade before summoning Anguish. That way they go discard one of their excess cards. We know they have multiples in their hand. With Darkblade, pop the back row, and then go into their combo. But if they do that, then Paradise gets to be live. Now I have another form of disruption I never had. That's exactly what happens. And now, I pointed out to my opponents after the match was done that this is actually a mistake. If you're in the Memento player's position here, what are you trying to pop with Darkblade? I know it seems wrong. You're discarding a card of no value to pop something that may be an issue later. In theory, that should always be a free discard. It feels intuitive, it feels efficient. But when you are playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At a higher level, your next question is not look at efficiency, not always looking at value, but how do you win this game? How do you lose this game? You win this game by your combo resolving. How do you lose this game? By them interrupting you, right? Does Darkblade help you prevent them from interrupting you? I know this sounds very convoluted for something so simple, but the answer is no. Because if their face down card is, say, Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse, Impermanence, Chalice, Droplet, pretty much any back row you could think of in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Solemn Strike, they chain it to the Darkblade's effect, and the Darkblade is rendered useless as if it had been impermed, or which had been impermed anyways. So you discarding a card to force it out doesn't do anything. However, where it can go wrong is if you Darkblade and you pop the Paradise or a card with a graveyard effect, you actually end up setting yourself back. Unless it becomes a format where Memento needs to force out a back row because it can be saved to have a devastating effect on their deck, it doesn't make sense for you to discard and pop here. And that may seem weird, but trust me, that is totally the play here. And I think this game goes differently if the Paradise isn't there. Dark Blades, press forward with Anguish, gets to search the Horsey out, but the horse is something I can check. I decided if I want to pop this, and I'm like, no. He discarded the mace actually off Dark Blade, I'm pretty sure, which is important because for one, there can be more information on his hand. Now I'm only missing one card from knowledge. The last two cards should be Goblin and then one unknown. Summons the horse, and I get to pop it. Now there's one unknown. Mental Fusion's already used, and I should be good to go. I know Combine Creation wasn't there. If he uses Mental Fusion, he can add from next to his hand, but that's kind of whatever. And then if he goes, what's it called, Anguish to revive Mace, I can Jewish Worm, catch him off there, and then that should be the end of the game. So my opponent uses the Anguish here to revive the Mace, exactly what I was kind of hoping for. The Druid gets to come down and punish. The Anguish still blows itself up. The Mace now disappears. And he's down to 2 cards with no normal summon and pretty much no extenders left. I get to draw. Again, no Lacrima. I had to shuffle back off of the Engraver, which is a bit unfortunate, but I get to revive the Engraver off of Don't Effect, equip Requiem, normal summon Flurry, get to make the another Requiem, and that is 8,000 damage. Nice and simple. Not playing into Nibiru. We just push. If he has a Bestial, then we force it out, and then main phase 2 start the combo. But yes, that is game number 1 versus Mento, and I think it went pretty well for us. As far as siding goes, one card that you can see in my side deck that I think might be better now is Ghost Bell, as it deals with some graveyard effects that we may see pop up. Can be used versus Malice, and it's very good for Mento because, again, hitting those fusion effects is important, and it hits Mento Fusion where pretty much no other card does. So there are Ghost Bells in my deck. I'm going to start with Dark Blade here, uses the effects, and I'm fortunate enough to have a Multi-Army Fulas. This is like one of the better cards to start off with on Fua because it gives me a draw. Now, if they want to go for the 2 fusion monsters, I'll get 2 more draws, and I can actually try and combat the field. I do have Imperm and Ash at this point. I decided to hold because if you Imperm this and they have Bone Party or Mento Fusion, it feels super bad. Yes, I get to draw a Fua, but I'd still rather hold. And I'd rather save for the problem cards, the cards that fuse themselves, or the Horse, which is a more powerful starter. It's Try a Horned here, which is probably not a good choice. It's kind of one of the worst cards to add here, to be honest. I think I should add Sleepy from that position. Anyways, they talents me, and they see my hand of Ice Sword, Cross, Ash, Imperm. Means the engine's not there anymore. Now we got the Rizal deck, and it's fucking powerful. 2 hand traps, 2 engine cards. He's a bit cooked if he doesn't have a way to stop a Rizal card. Now he decides to put back the Imperm. I think this is a mistake. His idea here is to try and push through what I have, but he can't play through Ash. If he hits a Rizal starter, he has no way of stopping it, so he loses anyways. What you do in this position is you have to act confident, try act fast. You hit the Ash, not the Imperm. Why do you hit the Ash, not the Imperm? Imperm against Memento is more fragile because, again, as I mentioned, if they have a quick play spell, you play through the Imperm and you just destroy them. It may force the player with the Imperm to second think themselves and make a mistake. And remember, you always have to be thinking from your own position, but also from your opponent's position. If they were in an unknowing position, how would they react? So the Memento player will think, there is a higher chance my opponent will make the play that favors me, and it's not even necessarily a mistake by holding the Imperm, and that is my only way to win. Because given the cards that now they both know both of our hands, my opponent knows both of our hands, he knows that if I play it in the correct manner, my Memento opponent has no way of winning. So this is a theoretically solved game for my opponent, and now it's dependent on me playing correctly. He hits the Ash here, or hit the Imperm. Him hitting the Ash means that it's unlikely he has a quick play spell in his hand, which one gives me information. It's free. And it makes it less likely I'll make the play that favors what they want to happen. He summons out the Horse, and then uses the effect, and I Ash, because it's supposed to do. It stops the Gaddock, it stops him climbing up. And Link monsters are really not good in this deck, so I'm not concerned. I know there's a Tri-Horns in hand, and then 2 unknowns. So yeah, I'm not really worried. He links 2 for SP to have some sort of disruption, but I draw, it's not even that good. Some Tri-Horns for some defense. And passive, not even a Bone Party in sight, which, to be fair, is predictable because he didn't hit the Imperm. Or he hit the Imperm. So now I'm looking at a hand of Ice, Sword, Cross into an SP, and I obviously feel pretty comfortable. And I don't remember what I drew for turn, but yeah. Oh, I drew Bell. I drew Bell off the Fu, I drew Bell for turn, and then I resolve Cross and I draw. He does an SP on summon here, which means I actually get access to Faints with cards as well. Because it means I get 2 monsters on board to make into Fiendsmiths without summoning from hand, which is not always the easiest through the first interaction point if your only cards are Rizals. So I go Exciton, attack over SP, and then go into Requiem. And now I essentially get to do the absolute full combo for Rizal Fiendsmith, which is also pretty safe into hand traps. And at the same time, I get to, what's it called? Have Bell in hand for next turn to clean the field. I go, no, I don't pop in the grave here. I get to Caesar, play on Nibiru, because that's a very possible card. And then Sword into X. I mean, this is like a very traditional Fiendsmith Rizal play. And despite some of the games seeming like there's no Rizal cards in the deck, when they get to fire off like the old deck used to, broken. You can see here, yeah, I send Twins. I'm not sure if it's supposed to send Tins. It's more aggressive, but I think it's fine. Having the Bells in my hand, I wanted to keep them, not discard them off node. If I knew I was going to draw a third Bell, then maybe I'd change my mind. But at this point, I'm committed. So when I summon the node here, I am going to draw the third Bell. And then I still send off the Duo. That way my Twins is live if I need it to be. Yeah, I'm going to have the 3 Bells, the Detonator, the Caesar, the Cross, the Twins. And yeah, I mean, this is just so hard for any deck to beat. Especially considering he had no extenders last turn. Talents is gone as well. Talents is like the best card into this board, and Talents is at 1. He can't have that again. So he draws Strike for turn. He just has nothing. Yeah, normal language effects. Cool. Pop, and then negate it. Now he has, yeah, and he just concedes. So you see that I have 3 Bells. Very comfortable position for me, and I was in kind of no position that I was going to lose. But that is Fiendsmith Rizal 3-0. All right, heading into the final round of the tournament. Now, this is a weekday tournament, so we play just Swiss. And this is my final opponent, 3-0. If I want to win the tournament, this is who I have to beat. And I did not know what they were playing at the time, but I win the roll and open up a very interesting hand that is all Fiendsmith cards. I believe my hand is Cross, Lacrima, Sanct, Lurie, and Tract. Now, that may seem not great. Very thankfully that I went first with this hand. This hand would have not been good going second. Obviously, you have very few ways to extend. But I do have extenders, and this is partially where 2 Lacrima comes up. We already saw it come up in grind games a bit, where it was nice to have 2 and it can access the Duo drive. But here you'll see the combos where you get access to. And you can also do Caesar as well beforehand. In this case, with the Cross setup, it actually plays around a lot of hand traps. So I decided to start off with Sanct, just checking for hand traps this first. And then if I get stopped on the Fuwalas, I get to summon from hand or I get Fuwad on like Requiem, I get to summon from hand and just stop what I'm doing. So off this, I do need to get access to a second Lacrima. That way I have 2 4s for later. So Lacrima number 1 is going to get summoned here. And the second one of my hand is going to be a normal summon for later. So I send from deck to grave, the Fiendsmith Engraver. Next, to follow it up with Tract to add another Engraver from deck to hand. I normal summon another... Oh, no. I do this first. Yes. I have the Cross, so I make a way to stop hand traps. I summon the Duo drive. I'm not going to use the effect here, though, because while I have Cross up and need hand traps, I need to be able to attach 2 materials. So if I get Ashed, Ogred, or Veilered, or even Nibiru, I don't think I had 5 summons yet, though. I had 1, 2, 3, 4... No, I had 5 summons. Could have been Nibiru. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... Yeah, 5 summons. Then I cross negate, but Duo doesn't resolve. So I do this, that way it also protects some other hand traps like Ash on Tract or whatever, Bestials if I really need to. But next I get to add Engraver, and then discard the Lurie. Lurie will come out, and then you get to equip and go into Necroquip Princess. This is cool because then I get to use Engraver's effect and draw a card. I get more follow-up next turn. Adding the second Tract to make the hand, I still play 2 Tracts. Like a normal Fiendsmith build, Fiendsmith Rizal build, and then draw a card. Here I draw Bonfire. Ironically, I already normal summon, so I don't get to use it, but it is good follow-up for next turn. Revive the Engraver, check for Bestials, and get nothing. And then I get to make Caesar. Now, here if I get hand trapped, I can go cross negate and detach off of the Caesar. Over, I get hit with Dominus Purge, and I'm like, well, yep, can't negate that. So I'm forced to just pass here. However, this isn't a lost cause, right? Because the cross negate still exists, and as soon as I cross negate, I can use Lacrima to revive Requiem, send Paradise, and I'm good. I have follow-up Engrave with Engravers. I have Tract for follow-up. I have the Bonfire in hand. It's not like this is a lost cause. I still have a decent position. Let's cast here Unicorn, which is a little bit rough because that does mean that I'll have to deal with the no Detonator in likelihood for the rest of the game. It's nice, though, that thanks to the Duo Drive field buff and minus, that this Unicorn can't just attack over my Duo Drive and eat the negate. Almost was Lacrima. So I'll let it go through because I have enough ways to stop Engraver from hitting the field with the cross and whatever. He adds off Unicorn for Birth. Maybe I'm supposed to hit Birth. Truthfully, I played this game pretty poorly into Birth, and I almost end up losing because of it. But my opponent presses forward, makes Requiem, and then ironically makes a mistake pretty similar to that on my last opponent. Obviously, if they use the effect, it's pretty bad into Caesar, so they go straight into SP. But remember, they purge, so again, they can't purge. Ironically, purge is stopping you from SP is really coming up several times here. Birth gets to survive Unicorn, but again, this doesn't threaten that much, so he uses Engraver to summon back. I Caesar block, and then Unicorn rip. I decide here that I just want to cross negate this, because even if Detonator gets hit on the next turn, I still want to protect my Desiree. Desiree is the other really important card here, and if I lose both of those, my grind games get significantly weaker. Even then, I also have SP, Chaos Angel, all these cards I'd rather not use, because in a Fiendsmith Mirror and a grind, if I lose those, I fall behind relatively fast. Opponent turns the Caster Unicorn into a Typhon, and again, because it's dark, cannot be used on a purge, so opponent gets quickly reminded that, oops, this is a mistake. At least they get to attack over the Duo Drive now, and it's one less interruption that I have going for me. The set and pass, and the grind game continues. I get to go Lacrima return. This is another position where if I had access to another Duo Drive, I could use it, because what I could do is I can go Lacrima, or Requiem effect, special Lacrima, Engraver, shuffle back, Lacrima, Engrave, make Requiem, Requiem, get another Lacrima, and then make Duo. That being said, I Bonfire face down, so I don't need to do that. That gives me access to Engine anyways. I start off with the Requiem on field, though, to check for hand traps. Use Lacrima and Ascend, Paradise, get that set up in the grave. Although I will like to go Desiree at some point here. I should prioritize getting rid of this birth. Honestly, I don't end up doing that, and I don't know why. But yeah, I go Ice Rizal next. And Ice Rizal is obviously, once again, this is really important as well, because then it means my cross is going to be getting draws, which is phenomenal. I get X Rizal, which is going to be good follow for future turns. I'm not really going to summon it here because I can't search as long as the Caesar's in play. I have to be a little careful with all that. I revive the Engraver, and then equip, and I get to pop the Typhon. Because I have the Caesar up, I'm not worried about Nibiru. I think it's fine. Opponent ogres me here, but it doesn't stop Engraver, so they decide to just keep the ogre in the hand, and I play as if it wasn't there. Oh, this does end up being worse for me as it gets hit on my, my Duo Drive later again as I return it back to the deck. So I start linking up and getting rid of my Rizal monsters, that way I can activate cross the effect, so I make Sequence. And then I use the effect of cross to put back the Duo, put back the sword, draw a card. I make Desiree first. I shouldn't have done this, because this actually puts Fiendsmith cards in my deck, which I don't want to see. I don't know why I did that in that order. I hit the back row, but that doesn't matter. I hit Paradise, which isn't the end of the world. I actually don't mind this too much. Yeah, and I think off cross, I draw a Call by the Grave. So now I'm like, oh, I can go Duo safely. However, I then forget to do Duo Drive, or to do Call by the Ogre, which is so stupid. Again, I'm not sure what happens here. I kind of feel like I get so far ahead that I stop paying attention, and that's a terrible excuse. This Desiree also should have just sent the Birth. Birth is the only card I actually care about here. Birth is really frustrating for me. And the fact I let it get to the point where this game becomes close, and it really should not have been. But yeah, make Duo again, and then I use the effect to search. I'll use the effect to use the effect to search. But first Paradise comes down, I have to just negate the Desiree cross. And then I use the Duo's effect, and I get Ogred. And yeah, I really should have called by this, so I get to actually kind of just push and to make Detonator, and the Detonator deal with the cards on field. Yeah, I would have won, but I'm a bit of an idiot, and I can't X tier again because there's the Caesar in play. I set my call by face down. I had a cross out as well. I don't play Ogre though, so cross out wouldn't have worked in that anyways. I could have crossed out. No, I can't cross out Paradise. It's in my grave. Opponent specials Fenrir here, and now Fenrir is actually like really good into the field because it deals with the Caesar or the cross, both of which is pretty good. I can't cross it out. Can't call by this. And the Birth Fenrir Unicorn is actually like really good into what I have. Engraver comes back, puts back the Desiree. I negate it, try to keep him off of Fiendsmith cards. Banishes the cross, which now means it may be hard for him to actually kill my Caesar. But he already has access to Fiendsmith cards, I believe, with a Lurry in his hand. Thankfully, though, I can just call by the Requiem to make sure that he still doesn't access more Fiendsmith cards. This does mean, however, that I have to be careful that I can't use my own Requiem on the turn. Now, here I make a mistake as well, and this is something I really should have done when he summoned Lurry, because I knew it was coming to this point. I knew the Requiem was coming down, and this is where the Birth matters. My opponent gets to go Birth here on the Call by the Grave, and they hit the Desiree. And in the same spot I was in last game, where you're in the Fiendsmith Mirror, but you don't have Desiree, it's effed. But yeah, I forget about it, and I start going for, what's it called? For Lacrimatic Monday, but they're like, no, Birth trigger. I'm like, oh shit, yeah. So I put it back in the grave, and they get to Birth trigger. And I don't know if they thought I could just chain Lacrima to bring back the Desiree, because you can't. I can bring back the Monday, and then in a new chain bring back Desiree. But if they hit the Desiree here, I lose. Instead, they avoid all 3 of those because they assume I can chain and hit 3 other cards instead, which is huge for me because of the 3 cards. It's the duo, which does matter a little bit, but no, it doesn't. I don't care. It makes twins worse. But I get the Desiree back, which is important. The Desiree checks the birth to some degree, stops the Unicorn coming back, and the Fenrir on the next turn. And when he passes here, it ends up being okay. So I just Desiree, negate both, and then a pass here means that, all right, I'm no longer completely screwed. I get to attack, continue the game, and I'm all good. And obviously, while the birth and the Fenrir are still there, Desiree can negate them, so I'm not concerned. The track gets me back into things. I don't actually have an engraver engraved though, so I can't do that much. And while I get Lurie here, I have to remember the Lurie doesn't do anything because Requiem is negated by call by. I knew this though. I'm just trying to put more monsters in the field, more damage, and then build them an SP to actually banish the stupid birth like I should have done last turn. And then if he clears my field, I get to use X and play Rizal cards. But yeah, that's the name of the game plan there. I tackle everything, and then main phase 2, I just make SP and banish the birth. So yeah, now I have Desiree SP with the cross-out face down if they have a Fiendsmith extender, and I chill. But it starts off with Unicorn again, then uses the Engraver effect on the grave to revive itself. And this is where the Cashier cards feel a little clunky because they're good into SP, so are the Engraver cards. When together into SP, they don't. So yeah, here I just chain the SP, banish the Unicorn, and it really just didn't do anything. If they just summoned Engraver and attacked, it would have been almost better. They link off a Requiem, use the effects. So important knowledge there to know that there are 2 Requiems in their deck, which makes sense, but still valuable nonetheless to know it's there. Lacrima gets grabbed, sent from deck to grave. Another copy of Engraver. Fiendsmith grind continues. It's insane how good Fiendsmith cards are, but yeah, this is not enough. Set 1 face down, revive, and the damage they took last turn plus the piercing off like Monday is going to be enough to just end the game. So while a bit of a grind that really was closer than it should have been, comes to an end, and we're going into game number 2. Now, going into siding, I want to lighten up the amount of hand traps in my deck and dependence on Rizals, because I'm expecting a heavy Kashtira engine from my opponent, and when they start with Kashtira cards, it means they can just banish Detonator right off the rip. Still Fiendsmith cards. Rizal cards aren't like completely dead, but yeah, no, they aren't what I want them to be either. I set out Drolls, which I expect to be bad in a grind game, and put in Bestials and Metaltronuses to try and really force the Fiendsmith grind and try and get favored from that position. I think I draw a hand of Molten Fulos, Double Metatronus, and Baldrake Sarnier, which is pretty good. However, a start of Cashier Unicorn is a bit concerning, as it means my extra deck will get ripped apart. Unicorn grabs Birth, and then Tract comes down. A Tract gets a Lacrima, and then they discard Lurie off the Tract. So this doesn't mean that 1 Bestial is not going to suffice. You're going to have access to Fiend cards. Don't Bestial here because it's not going to do anything meaningful. All it does is deny 1 body in the field. That's not important. I decide to Fulos here, however, though, because they want to get Paradise Engraved, and they're scared of me just bomb wrestling them with a lot of monsters. They're committed to giving me at least 1 draw. Whereas if they just go for Requiem here and use the effect and I chain Fua, they summon Lacrima from hand and I get 0. So this forces them to, if they want to get access to a live Paradise, to give me 1 draw. And that's the idea here. That's what happens. It's me 1 draw, which is important. Then I draw Rise Across, which it sucks, but it's 1 card deeper in my deck, which will matter in the future. Activates Birth, set 1 face down, and passes. It keeps Lacrima in hand because the Requiem can still get Paradise. Metaltronus here does stop it, so I decide to cut off the ability to get Paradise immediately, and just Tronus, so that Requiem is now going to be negated. Obviously can't do anything because it's a draw phase as well. I'm not going to banish it though, because I feel like I can just banish it with the pistol anyways. What I want to do here is I want to attack over the Requiem, and then I want to let him Unicorn rip 1. And this does suck. My Detonator is already gone though. Unicorn second rip is kind of poo, but I need to start clearing up his Fiendsmith package. If I banish the 1 Requiem from his grave, then I know that I can banish a second one later, and maybe that's how I win. So I go Engraver battle phase, attack his Requiem, and then in the battle phase, use a Bestial to banish his Requiem and attack over the Unicorn, and then I can start playing in main phase 2. If this Unicorn had been in attack mode, I would have had to rethink this play, but it ends up working out pretty well for me. I get to rip another card from extra deck here, and yeah, he gets the sequence. I do think that without the Fusion Lacrima existing in the game, especially if you see no other fusions from me, you should be hitting Desiree, not Sequence. Opponent picks Requiem, and I'm like, I played 2. Are you sure you want to do that? I rethink Sequence. I think hitting the fusions is the right idea, but Desiree is the better one because of Paradise, where Sequence just is nothing without it, pretty much. Yeah, main phase 2, I just get to go into whatever. Oh, I think I drew Paradise for turn, actually. There. So my hand ends from this position is Paradise, Metaltronus, and a Bestial. I'm just playing Fiends with Control, which is fine. I link into Chaos Angel. The idea here is I really want to get rid of this Birth. The Birth is going to be the death of me. So Chaos Angel forces out any back row. It's Imperm, cool. Now I get to Engraver and make SP. And then he needs one more hand trap to stop this. And then once this resolves, if he starts playing with Kashtira cards, because I know Lacrima is one of the 2 cards in his hand, I'm able to stop that with Metaltronus and with Mistral in my hand. So this should keep him off all of his engines. The only thing I'm scared of is the cash cards here. Well, Fenrir for turn was actually really frustrating, because Fenrir here does a lot. He uses the effect of Search. I decided not to SP here. I don't think this really does anything meaningful. He just goes battle phase, then fine. But yeah, Fenrir is incredibly strong. Still, though, without Birth, I can engage in a grind game. I'll have to give up resources, but I'll be okay. He attacks, then a main phase 2, almost Lacrima. I use the effect. Now, I decide to not interact with this. What I'm going for instead is I want to hit his Requiem. Whether it be Metaltronus or Bestial, I want to banish both Requiems from the game. That way he can't access his Engravers easily at all. And that way his Lacrimas are also dead for the rest of the game. Or dead in the meaningful fashion that they are in my deck. Like we saw in the past rounds where I Lacrima an infinite number of times, it feels like. He makes Requiem, uses the effects, special summons from the deck, the Engraver. Aside this position, I'm okay banishing an Engraver from my deck face down. I want to banish his Engraver. I don't want to put it in Engrave because then he keep reviving it. The whole game plan here is cut him off of Fiendsmith access altogether. So I decided Metaltronus is Engraver, so my own Engraver banish both. This is a little weird because it means that I'm expecting to lose an Engraver here, and then I'm also expecting to lose one Engraver to his Fenrir. So I'm going to pretty much be playing with one Engraver for the rest of the game, but the cost to his deck should also be pretty high. During the end phase, I decide to cut off the Requiem access, like I said. There's Lacrima's there, so banish the second one. Fenrir is live, however, so I lose the Baldrake for free at the end of the world, though, because it means I get to revive the Requiem. Now, obviously, I could tag the Requiem in main phase 1, but if I did in the end phase, then not. Or main phase 2, rather. Still, go to the next turn, and a bit of a predicament here. How do I deal with this Fenrir? Now, what he's going to want to do is wait for me to equip with the Requiem. That way, because that threatens to pop the Caesar, or the Fenrir. From that position, he can then Fenrir banish. So what I want to do is get it in my second Engraver out. Summon another Engraver. Why did I summon Lacrima here? Oh, because I can still go into, what's it called? A second Requiem and then into Engraver. I do this to send Tract. Or send another Engraver. Because I shuffle it. Sorry, I do this to put a Life Fiend Engrave. I can shuffle it back for the Engraver. But yeah, here I get to Engraver, shuffle back Engraver. That way I can threaten Caesar. Because Caesar also kills the Fenrir by battle. And I just want to deal with the Kashtira cards one by one. Because while it seems very, very slow to deal with these one by one, it's my best bet. I do Ash for turn, by the way. So my plan is to Ash this Paradise, if you're wondering. And then, yeah. So he Fenrir banishes one Engraver. And then when he uses the Paradise, I Ash it to keep him off of the Fiendsmith cards. I blow up the Fenrir. I attack. And now I'm chilling, right? Now this is where I want to be. He has Unicorn left, but I have Fiendsmith cards. He has no Fiendsmith in hand. Or shouldn't have. And okay, maybe we're good. Summons Unicorn. And yeah, got to chill here. He gets to attack, look at my extra deck. And from this position, he should be ripping Duo Drive probably, or Desiree. I think he hits Necroquip or Twins of the Eclipse. But yeah, hitting the Duo Drive stops me from doing combos with Cross or whatever. Not combos, but run game with Cross, because that is pretty good if I get there, right? It still gives me draws. It still gives me negates. It's still solid. End phase, I use the Lacrima, bring out the Requiem, I draw for turn. I think I draw Lacrima for turn, so I can go Duo Drive now, which is actually pretty good. But I use the Requiem effect, special Lacrima here. And I realized something else. I can actually just hard fuse for Desiree. And it's a little weird because if I equip the Requiem to the Engraver to pop the Unicorn, then the Desiree won't have anything equipped to it. But that's fine, because what it actually does is it puts the Paradise live. Because my face down here is Paradise. And Paradise's field effect says if I control a high-level Fiend Fusion, which Desiree is, it blows up every card on the field, except the Desiree. So yeah, I revive the Engraver here. I pop the Unicorn, testing for hand traps. And then I'm okay. I can normal Lacrima here, make Duo, or I can Fuse. I decided to Fuse, play around a card like Ogre, which I know is in his deck, or Purge. Make Paradise, swing. Actually, I don't know why I didn't just swing first. That's stupid. And then I just pass here. And again, there's something no Fiendsmith access. Normals roll with the expect of going into Typhon, but I didn't summon from the extra deck last turn, except for the Desiree, so it doesn't do anything. It sets one face down, and then sets a back row. In the end phase, I get to nuke the field with Paradise, put all his cards up, which is obviously bad news bears. And you can see here how the one card, or the end phase Duo Drive combo works in the follow-up, because he left the Duo Drive in his deck. I go revive the Requiem, effect special summon Lacrima. And this is a game without it, to be honest, but still. Engraver, shuffle back the Lacrima. Engraver, make Requiem, summon another Lacrima. And yeah, it's super easy. Then make Duo, cross the head from like turn 1, search Sword, search Ice, and yeah, there's the game. So we are undefeated with Fiendsmith Ryziel. 4-0. Not just 4-0, 2-0 to all my opponents. And yes, I know it's locals. It's not always the most competitive environment. Mistakes happen, myself included. I definitely did not play perfectly. But it shows that Fiendsmith Ryziel is here to stay. A lot of these games end up being Fiendsmith control, but that's fine. The Ryziel cards eat disruptions. Or the Ryziel cards, once you get through the barrier, that's the final blow. To me, yes, they are a little more of a support engine of the Fiendsmith than they were before. Or maybe lean a little heavier on Fiendsmith than you did prior. Still very strong. This should kind of show the elements that are there are nuts. By nature of 2-0ing people, I didn't get to go first all that much. I didn't draw Ryziel cards when I went first. So you didn't even get to see me go like Detonator and stuff. And while that may happen less, because the cards are not as consistent, you saw how I can convert Fiendsmith cards into Ryziel cards, as well as you saw that you're fine without them sometimes. Had I gone first and just drawn Slay Ice Ryziel or Bonfire, I would have been able to put up the old classic Ryziel fields, which are still broken. Anyways, yes, that was the Ryziel, or the Fiendsmith Ryziel deck. Let me know what you guys thought, and if you want to see more hyper-competitive videos like this, where I really focus on the absolute strongest decks. And once again, if you do want to see the deck list, you can see in the description, with a full-on deck profile being on Patreon, where I go in depth with my card choices, my opinions on how stuff is shaping up, and maybe how I'd adapt things moving forward with this deck. Now, we still have a couple weeks before Alien is released, and until then, I do expect this deck and Mouse variants to be decks to look out for, while other rogue decks or graveyard effect decks that were a little more off meta before creep up, but still don't reach the power that is Ryziel. That said, guys, see you all next time. Peace.